I put on my glasses when I want to look smart.
Cassidy Quinn.
Last night, in case you didn't notice, was the first presidential debate for the 2012 elections. And I watched it. Did you? Now, most people watching the debate were probably watching it to find out how Obama feels about the different issues, how Romney feels about the different issues. But I was watching it for a different reason. To learn some life lessons from the presidential candidates. There were a few things that we can all learn from watching last night's debate. So here's the top 5. Number 5. In life, you have to be willing to say no to things. In the debate last night, Romney kept saying on his first day in office, on his second day in office, he is going to do all of these things. He's going to do a million things. If you've ever made a to-do list before, you know that if your to-do list has like 20 things on it for one day, probably none of them are going to happen. So even though it's difficult at times, sometimes you just have to say no to things. Number 4. When you are arguing with people, or in this case, debating with people, make sure to take as many jabs at the other person as you can. Contradict yourself. Smile. And if you do all of those things, people will think you've won. Apparently, that's how you win a debate, by being a dick. Number 3. If you're going to make plans, make detailed plans. If you just make up some lofty goals and write them down and tell them to everybody, everyone's going to start asking you questions. How are you going to accomplish this? What exactly is this plan? And if you're not willing to take the time to actually lay out the details, the very specific details of your plan, no one's going to give a shit about your plan. Number 2. Anything you say publicly can and will blow up on the internet and haunt you or benefit you for the rest of your life. Specifically, right now, I'm referring to Romney's Big Bird comment from last night. One of the things that Romney said he was going to cut spending on was PBS, which is the TV station that broadcasts Sesame Street. And Romney said, you know, I love Big Bird, but we can't spend money that we don't have to put on a program that is not completely, absolutely necessary for our country. During the debate, there were 250,000 tweets sent out talking about Big Bird. At one point, there were 17,000 tweets per minute about Big Bird. If I was Big Bird right now, I would be so honored, but also incredibly pissed off because Mitt Romney just threatened my job. My point being, if you say anything at any point in your life, make sure that you are okay with millions of people seeing it, because if it's something noteworthy, it will show up all over the internet. It will blow up the internet. That is the only way to describe what happened last night with Big Bird. And finally, the number 1 life lesson that I learned from last night's presidential debate. I never, ever, ever, ever in my entire life want to be president. I know a lot of kids when they grow up aspire to be president. I could be the next president. I could be the next George Washington. I could be the next Bill Clinton, the next Obama. I don't want to be any of those things. I just kept watching how much pressure both of these guys are under. I could never solve America's problems. The world's problems are on the president's hands. You know that song, He's Got the Whole World in His Hands? That's what it's like to be president. And I don't want that. I have small hands. They can't fit a world. So there you have it. Those are the top 5 life lessons that we can all learn from last night's presidential debate. Do you learn anything else from last night's debate? Do you actually want to be president? Who are you going to vote for? Whatever you want to say, leave it in the comments below. Bye! He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 And I don't. And I'm happy with it.